Good day, my students. You're welcome to music class. Today we'll be discussing the orchestra instruments. I know you are not hearing the word orchestra for the first time. We have a group of people performing in our school that we call the orchestra, and I know a good number of you are always eager to join this group, and we call them the orchestra. So, an orchestra consists of a large group of people playing different musical instruments, and the musical instruments are all Western musical instruments. This is not to say that all Western musical instruments are under this category. So we have specific musical instruments that are classified as an orchestra instrument. So we said a large group of people. How large will a group of people playing musical instruments be to form an orchestra? So a group of people from the number 50 and above. So when you have people up to like 50 and above performing different Western musical instruments together, so that group can be called an orchestra. And all the families of the orchestra must be well represented. So, like we normally say in our school, that we have the orchestra group. So, our group is not yet an orchestra group because we are not up to 50. We only have chamber orchestra group, even though all the families of instruments are represented, but yet they are not up to 50. So, we regard our own group here as chamber orchestra group because we are less than 50. So these families of the orchestra are classified under 5 families. The instruments of the orchestra are classified under 5 families. And the families are the strings, the woodwind, the brass, percussion, and keyboard instruments. The strings, woodwind, the brass, the percussion, keyboard instruments. What are the strings instruments? It's not all stringed instruments that are under this family. So the specific instruments that are under these strings are 4 in number, and they are violin, viola, cello, double bass. Violin, viola, cello is written cello, but it's pronounced cello, then double bass. Stringed instruments are instruments played by bowing or occasionally plucking. They are bowed instruments. They are made of skin. Strings through which a player, runs a bow across to make sound. So, example, like I said, we have violin, we have viola, we have cello, and the double bass. Then woodwind instrument. Woodwind instrument, they are made up mostly, they produce sound with the aid of column of air. Originally, woodwind instruments were made of wood. Now, flutes and piccolos are nearly always metal. So when you look closely, when you check clarinet, you observe that clarinet, it's made of wood with combination of little metal. So, but nowadays we now have almost metal, us of woodwind instruments. A sample of these instruments are, we have the piccolo. Piccolo resembles flute, but it's smaller to flute and it sounds higher than flute. And we have flute, we have oboe. Oboe is just like clarinet, but it uses double reed. Then we have the clarinet. Then we have quanglize. The quanglize, almost like oboe. Then we have double bassoon and bassoon. In occasionally, we now have saxophone in modern orchestra. So some people may decide to add saxophone, though saxophone is not an orchestra instrument, but in modern orchestra, we now have them. So woodwind, some of them are uh, are made up of single reed. We play some through, the uses of reed. Some are without reed, and some are with double reed. So the instrument without reed are the piccolo and the flute. Then the instrument with single reed, we have the clarinet, then the saxophone, as the case may be, and this instrument with double reed. The example is oboe. Then we have brass. Brass instruments are loud on the whole. They are made of, some are made of brass and some are made of metal. So they are wind instruments, but their mouthpiece is cup-shaped or funnel-shaped mouthpiece through which a player will blow. So when you have any instrument with a funnel-shaped mouthpiece, that instrument is grouped under the brass instrument. An example of brass instruments are the trumpet, the trombone, the French horn, the tuba, euphonium, and so on. Then we have percussion. Percussion instruments are the instruments that are literally, struck instrument either directly with hands or with an object. So they are rhythmic instruments. So you can either strike, you rub, shake to produce, or beat to produce sound. So percussion instruments are classified, under two groups. We have the definite pitch and indefinite pitch. Definite pitch are those ones that are capable of making a tone. Indefinite pitch are, the ones that are not capable of making tones. So example of definite pitch is kettle drum. Kettle drum, we have locking spell and so on and so forth. Then other percussions, we have drums, we have rattles, we have triangle, we have snare drums, and so on. Then the keyboard instrument. The keyboard instruments are the general instrument that has keyboard, like the piano, like the organ, spinet, and so on. So when you see any instrument with keyboard, you understand what I mean by keyboard? There are arrangements of white and black keys. So those instruments are classified under keyboard family. So that is that about orchestra instruments. God bless you. See you next class.